Good morning, everybody. I would like to call this meeting of the Development and Property Committee to order at 9:30 a.m. on Tuesday, February the 13th. As we gather this morning, I would like to acknowledge on behalf of Council and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the First Nations. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history. We are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Has roll call been taken, Evelyn?
Yes, thank you, Chair, and we have quorum.
Thank you very much. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof? Seeing none, then we will move on to the adoption of the minutes of the previous meeting held on January the 16th, 2024 and January 31st, 2024. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor from Town of Arnprior, seconded by the Councillor from Greater Madawaska. Any additions, corrections, or omissions? Seeing none, all in favor? And that carries. Thank you. So this morning, I'm pleased to say that we have two delegations, and I will turn it over to Melissa Markwood to introduce the first delegation, please.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, everyone. I'm pleased to welcome Ian Duff, President of McSweeney & Associates, to our meeting this morning, who's going to be presenting our new Economic Development Strategic Plan. As you will be aware, this is a process that we began last fall in partnership with the Renfrew County Community Futures Development Corporation. And this was a bit of a new approach to economic development strategic planning with this partnership approach, but we are both our Economic Development Department and CFDC are very happy with the results. It was a really great process, and I think you'll be pleased with the report that's part of your package. And so given that, I will hand it over to Ian, who is also no stranger to the County of Renfrew. We've had the privilege of working with McSweeney & Associates in the past through various number of projects. And Ian is also a former Valleyite, hailing from Renfrew County, and also back in the day was a former employee with the County of Renfrew in the GIS department. So I will hand it over to you, Ian. Welcome.
Thanks, Melissa. Good morning, everyone. That was quite the intro. Yes, I am originally from the Valley, born and bred, and I still think my roots run deep. So this was a pleasure for us to once again come and work with both the county and the CFTC. And I am going to run through a rather quick presentation. Just let me load it up here. Okay, perfect. So again, thank you for having us today. We are going to go through the presentation to talk about the county's new economic development strategic plan, a bit about the process and some of the things that we've uncovered along the way. So right up front, I do want to stress this is a big step. A lot of communities, they don't value strategic planning. And specifically when it comes to economic development and community development, planning is a big deal. There's so many things that are happening. There are so many different avenues that you can look at. A strategic plan is very important. It allows you to be proactive in what you do. You can think ahead. You can look at things and you can make sure that you are being prepared for the future. You're less reactive. It better equips the county and your partners to decide on what your priorities are. What are the things we want to focus on? What are the things that are important to us? The thing about a plan, though, to keep in mind, it's not set in stone. Things change in the community, things change in the economy, and a plan, although is setting the direction and allowing you to set priorities, those priorities might change from time to time. So don't think that as we go through this is set in stone. It's a guiding document, but it also needs to be flexible and fluid as you go through. Plans also help you with your budgeting. It helps you think ahead, think about the things that you will need, think about the things that you will want to do. And specifically with this plan, it allows the county to continue to be a leader in economic development. And I'll explain that more once we get into the presentation. Your plan in front of you today, it is a 3-year timeline. So we tried to be as concise and realistic as possible. And again, this plan, the way that it's laid out, will position the county to remain as a leader within economic development. The services and the initiatives that the county undertakes, you do it with several partners. You never do it in isolation. You're always working in partners, whether it be with your municipal partners, the City of Pembroke, or with your Algonquin First Nation neighbors. It's very important that you collaborate. It's very important that you work together. And that's something that came out through the entire process. I think there's a strong willing for everyone to work together. Strong willingness for everyone to work together. And that's something that as you move forward in the future will become more and more important because a lot of the initiatives that you're going to undertake won't just impact the county, but it'll impact all your member municipalities and all your other partners as well. So what are the key priorities? What are the things that the county ECDev folks focus on? You're very entrenched in business investment, retention, and attraction. That hasn't changed. Actually, none of these three have changed, but it really came out through the consultation piece that, business investment, servicing your businesses, making sure that they have what they need, and making sure that you can attract new investment to the county is very important. Providing support to your small businesses and your entrepreneurs and supporting the tourism sector. Those are your main 3 priorities within this action plan, and those are the main things that the county does. In terms of a process, I do want to stress what Melissa alluded to earlier. This is unique. The process that we went through with the county and with the CFDC is very unique, and I'll be upfront. We probably deliver about 30 to 35 strategic plans and strategies a year. And mostly with municipal partners, some with counties, some with regions. But this is the first one that we've ever done where a CFDC and a county or a regional entity worked together hand in hand in partnership to go through the consultation and the analysis piece. And I tip my hat to both the county and the CFDC. It worked rather well. We were a little skeptical when we started. Again, that's just the nature of our business. We want to make sure that we succeed. And this was a very successful process. It brought everyone to the table. It allowed us to ask questions that interested both the county and the CFDC, but it also didn't inundate the business community or the stakeholders that we were talking to. We didn't have to go back twice and ask everyone, to participate twice. You could go out there to the region and talk to the businesses on behalf of the county, on behalf of the CFDC once, and that's a big deal. It also aligns, with what the CFDC is doing with what the county is doing. So there's no overlap. Everyone understands, roles and responsibilities, and it's a very successful process. And I think, again, I applaud the county and the CFDC for having the foresight to do this. And I think you should be telling other people that it works because it was a great process. In terms of the actual process, there was 4 steps that we went through to develop the plan. We call them discover, define, develop, and deliver, but I'll explain each one separately. So the first step is really about understanding the county on paper. What does it look like? So, we went through a process of looking at some stats and data. We went through a very detailed strategic document review, and both from the CFDC side and the county side. So we could see where there was overlap, see what was important. But it's really just understanding what the county looks like on paper. What are some of the things that are important? Because again, we don't lose sight of the things that the county is already working on, and the things that are important and the priorities that have already been set. A plan, was really to build off of that. It's not to throw it out and start from new. So we made sure that we reviewed all your strategic documents to understand, what were the priorities right now. We also consulted with the community, and this was the part that really, I think, the efficiency in going through this process, so that you don't have to go out twice, worked rather well. We had an online survey. We talked to a bunch of people, and we came up and held some focus groups at the county building just before Christmas. So then we took all that information back that we gleaned from step 1 and step 2, and we sat down with the active folks and some of the property folks. We had a really good, we called it a working session. It's a really good discussion face-to-face to say, okay, here's what we found out on paper, here's what we found out from the community, here's what people are saying, what's important, what do you want to do with it? So the plan that you have in front of you was built by your team. It was built by your economic development team that you have in front of you, plus with some support from the McSweeney team. So it's a great opportunity for your staff to sit down and pull out, okay, what's important, what do we want to do? It's your plan. So it's great that we went through this process because now they have ownership of it. They built it, and it's something that I think reflects the needs, the desires, and the opportunities within the county. So finally, the results. So that's when we actually put the plan together and put pen to paper and make sure that we've captured those important things and those actions and those activities that the county wants to undertake. So some of the priorities and activity or actions, the two things that really jumped out through this process, one is talent, labor. I don't think it's a surprise to anyone. The county is no different than anywhere else across Canada. Labor is a huge issue right now. And there is a labor shortage within the county. And the magnitude of it, whether it's real or perceived, it's definitely impacting businesses' abilities to do business within the county. Businesses need workers, whether it's high-end, whether it's entry-level, doesn't matter. They need workers. And right now there's a shortage in the county, and that is impacting both your community development and your economic development opportunities. And the second one is continuing to build, regional collaboration. This is critical. Economic development, not one municipality, not one organization, not one stakeholder, not even the county can do it on your own. You need help. It's a team sport. Everyone needs to be honest and open with each other. And I'm going to pause just for a second. As I said, we do work all across Canada, and we mainly work in rural and small town. And growing up in a small town, this one hits home for me. So it's rather interesting. And Melissa and I had a really good discussion about this. Small town, rural municipalities, more rural communities, very competitive with each other. They're very competitive, neighbor to neighbor. You're always trying to outdo your neighbor or compete against them. It's like the hockey analogy when you're growing up. Every small town is a hockey team. You play your neighbor, and you just, that competitive spirit to beat them is always there. But as you get older, sometimes that competitive spirit stays with you, and we become leaders in the community, and you still are competing against your neighbor, sort of back like you were in the hockey days. That's a mentality that's strong all across rural Canada, and it's strong within the county as well. But you need to find ways to start building that down so that there is true collaboration and true partnerships amongst the county and its partners, specifically around economic development and specifically when it comes to investment attraction. You need to start working together, or continue to start working together, and build those relationships so that everyone realizes a new business that locates in the county, it's good for everyone in the county. So everyone needs to start working more closely together on their economic development initiatives. So getting into the actions, getting into sort of the meat and potatoes of the actual plan, there's a bunch of themes. So one of the themes is business investment, retention, and attraction. So that the first thing is to really start working towards building more cohesive and collaboration amongst all partners, municipal, not-for-profit, private sector. It's continuing to build those relationships and working together. Specifically within your municipal partners, there's a list of actions that the county can undertake that will really help to build collaboration and help to pull everyone together. It's about your land, it's about your data. It's all in there. It's an active program focused around investment attraction with your partners. It's also about being investment ready. So we heard many times through the consultation, some of your municipal partners, they just want investment. We want a business. We want industry. That's wonderful. That's a great attitude to have, but there are certain things that you need to have to make that happen. So this is again another process about being investment ready that the county can work on with its partners that will really help elevate the county's ability not only to retain investment, but to attract new to the county. Small business and entrepreneurship. Everyone knows that small business, drives the economy in most organizations or most communities. Continue working with your Algonquin First Nation neighbors. Make sure you get out there more and let people know that Enterprise Renfrew County exists and the ways that it can help establish businesses and expand businesses. But you also have to find a way to support Enterprise Renfrew County for the long term, because it is a very valuable service. And then tourism. Tourism is one of those sectors within the county that brings a lot of people to the region. So there are things there that you can continue to do to help stabilize and sustain that sector. It's about continuing the conversation about a municipal accommodations tax. It's looking at working with tourism operators to help them with their succession planning, to make sure that if owners are looking to get out of the business, that you can find ways to bring new owners in to continue that business going within the tourism sector. And finally, finding ways to bring new types of investment into the county, focusing on tourism. And that's your strategy in a nutshell. It's, again, the way that it's positioned is to set the county, to elevate the county into a status where you're continuing showing leadership within economic development and helping to bring all community partners together to make sure that the county is a great place to be with respect to economic development. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ian, and I'll open it up for questions. The warden, and then councillor from Township of Horton.
Yeah, I was curious. You didn't touch on technology, and is there an avenue for us to always refresh our technology and then sharing it with the partners? So I'm curious, is that something that's included as a subtext to one of the other actions?
So part of your investment readiness approach would be to making sure that you've got the right technology in place. So there is an action or an activity in there where it looks at basically assessing the different types of infrastructure within the county and documenting it to make sure you've got the right pieces. Technology infrastructure will be built into that. There's also some technology upgrades, not the right word, continual improvements that the county can look at itself, specifically around economic development, that focuses on getting information out to the public, whether it's an improved GIS system, an improved website, a more user-friendly website, that kind of stuff. Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, that's a very good question that I also want to touch on as well. There's a very fine line between economic development and community development. And there's some gray zones there. So through this process, we tried to make sure we focused more on the ECDev side. And so there are some technology improvements and upgrades that you could also look at from a community development side that we didn't tackle, we didn't discuss.
Thank you.
And councillor from Township of Horton.
Thank you, Chair, and through you, I would like to get the opinion of Santec of where we are with agriculture in Renfrew County. I personally see that as a big driver coming forward, and all the land, and I might have missed it, but it doesn't seem to be addressed in the presentation, and certainly not to the extent it needs to move forward with. Is there any help that can be achieved through the strategic plan in order to make sure our agricultural community is recognized and the growth potential?
So the one thing that sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the question. The one thing that we didn't do was do a deep dive into your sectors. to say here are the specific things that you can do within your sector. So agriculture, manufacturing, food processing, there's some great stuff happening. Agriculture itself, specifically within the county, and I'm glad you mentioned it, it's not just an economic driver, it's a lifestyle. So clearly when we engage some of the producers in agriculture, they have their fingers into so many different things. It's part of it's going to be to figure out what the county can do, and what the ag producers themselves will do. Again, back to the investment readiness piece. There's some actions in there that can talk about, or that talks about, engaging with the sectors and making sure that you've got the information that you need to help grow and to help sustain those sectors. But if you're talking about getting down into a specific, I'm going to talk about target sector activities or target sector plans. We didn't get into that detail or that depth with this plan specifically.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? I'm seeing none. So once again, Ian, thank you very, very much for an excellent presentation, and we look forward to certainly working the plan and moving it forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good day, everyone.
And at this point, I will turn it over to Director Davis to introduce our second delegation.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, everyone. Very pleased to have here with us the Kitchissippi Ottawa Valley chapter of the Council of Canadians here to talk about one of their passions, climate change and how climate matters. And while the presenter is walking up to the podium, a brief background of the Council of Canadians. It is a Canadian nonprofit organization that advocates for clean water, fair trade, green energy, public health care, and democracy. It was formed 39 years ago with headquarters in Ottawa. And the Council of Canadians firmly believe it's nonpartisan, both politically and financially, and they take no funds from the governments or corporations. So the Kitchissippi chapter, Ottawa Valley chapter, is here today to talk about climate change and how climate matters. I'm pleased to have them here for their presentation, and welcome.
Here we go. I just love technology. We're best friends. And these are my scrawled notes. I'm Anne, and we have several members of our Climate Action, Climate Matters, ! Action Group here today from our chapter. It's a part of what our chapter does. So we have Judy Sauvé, we have Barb Mook, and we also have Carol Sulphur, and with me is Liz Deacon. And I think that Kathy Lindsay was going to come in as well by Zoom. She's not in the area at the moment. But between us, we are resident in the Madawaska Valley, Horton, McNabb Braeside, North Algona, Wilberforce, Renfrew, and the Killaloe Haggerty Richards. And other members of our chapters are in some other municipalities. So we're spread across the county. And what you see in front of you is looking climate change in the eye. And I'm going to try to make this thing work. Okay, and there's just some pictures of things that we've been doing since we founded the chapter in 2021. And the slogan at the bottom, People, Planet, Democracy, that's our national organization's slogan. It's based in Ottawa. It's been around for 38 years. Some of you might have heard of Maud Barlow. Our main thing is protection of the water, and all the rest of the stuff somehow comes into that in one way or another. This is a quote from Sage magazine, which is it's a periodical that's produced for the National Association of Federal Retirees, and this quote comes from Neil Daw, who is with the Wildlife Service of Environment Canada. Canadians must ask themselves not what it costs to change their behavior, but what it costs not to change. And this presentation, I'm going to have to turn around here, hopes to help us all move toward greater levels of resolve. Why do we need to change? Well, here's a quick look at some familiar reminders. On the far left, you can see the heat zones, and climate change has led to more and more droughts, more and more wildfires, and more problem with access to water for people in our area. You can see that once-in-a-century floods, which have happened 3 times in the last 7 years. You can see the microburst that happened in Eganville last year, I believe it was, and the year before, the derecho in Greater Madawaska. And then on the far right, you can see examples of the smoke that we lived through this summer. These are all climate change factors. And at the bottom down there on the far right, the statistic is offered that in Canada, by the end of October 2023, wildfires had burned 47.5 million acres, emitting 1.7 billion tons of CO2 in Canada, which is a lot more than the cars that were driven last year. Some of the experts that agree with us that we have to do something on the why include Mark Carney, former head of the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England, and he basically is making the point that there's a lot of money in the green energy transition, and any financial professional who denies that is not facing the truth. The Dr. Kathleen O'Hara, president of the Canadian Medical Association, says that climate change is a public health emergency and we all have a shared responsibility to act on it. Pope Francis has gotten into it twice in a major way, once in 2015 and once last year with encyclicals, making the point that governments are not listening at the highest level globally, and that we need more people working from the bottom up, and that includes local level government. And our favorite is Dr. Catherine Hayhoe, who is a climate scientist born and educated in Alberta, now working at the University of Texas, who basically says, yeah, this is all true and it's all real and we know it better than anyone else, but it all starts with having a conversation, and that's what we're here for today, is to start that conversation between our group, our Climate Matters Action Group, and your committee and hopefully the council. Thanks. Climate chaos is not a future problem. It has begun, and again, I'm going to have to turn around. Extreme and strange weather is the new normal. Droughts and erratic weather cause psychological distress for people with climate-sensitive livelihoods. And we're talking about eco-tourist operators, as well as farmers and loggers and the other people who depend on the climate. Our public infrastructure is crucial, and when it gets damaged by extreme weather, or a weather whiplash, as it's now called, it creates chaos in local budgets and ultimately raises taxes. Insurance costs are going up, some insurance is not available, and everyone agrees that all the top levels in Canada as well as internationally that Canada's not holding up its end of the deal in terms of dealing with greenhouse gas. And the worst of it is that the bad effects of climate change build on each other and create more difficulties. Many Canadians, probably everybody in this room to some extent, experience climate distress. And the majority of psychologists agree, the vast majority, that this is not a mental illness. This is a real, valid response to something that's out of the control of the individual. And it's it's at the community level that we have the chance to begin to deal with this. There's a picture that shows you the two different ways in which it affects climate distress, affects people, the instability of the climate. There's the direct way where you actually experience the extreme weather or weather whiplash. And then there's the indirect way where you hear about it or you see the outcome of it, like your culvert is down or whatever, but you didn't actually see the damage being done. And they both feed into this situation of being aware of the instability of the future, and that leads to problems with mental health. So here's a cartoon that I actually like, and you see the kid, you see the dad sort of saying, "Oh, the weather's crazy," and you see the kid saying, "Yeah, the weather," and he's looking at the state of the world behind him. Lakehead University professors Galway and Field, and we're still on the why we need to work on climate action. Lakehead University professors Galway and Field researched the climate emotions of Canadian youth, 16 to 20. They studied 1,000 of them across the country. And there's just a few that I'm going to go through here. I'm not going to deal with the whole thing. I think you have a copy of the presentation. So 78% of the youth respondents felt angry about the government's response to climate change, or lack of response. 73% find the future frightening, according to this study. 71%, I'm going to come back to that one in a minute. 40% of youth said their feelings about climate negatively affect their daily lives. And the encouraging thing is that 71% of the youth respondents believe that together we can do something, but they want to work with adults. They want to feel safe talking about climate because adults don't talk to them about climate. And so they feel powerless and they really want a place to be involved. And one of the things that could happen with Renfrew County is to establish a youth climate corps or something like that, a youth climate action committee. Next slide is, it's not just youth. About 3/4 of all Canadians experience some climate distress, such as worry, grief, guilt, or anxiety, yet few of us are active on climate issues. So what's holding us back? Professor from University of Victoria found has identified the dragons of inaction, and you can't see the fine print from there, but the yellow guy says, it's not my responsibility. Or climate action's not necessary. The gray guys are saying this conflicts with my own goals and aspirations, so I'm not going to do anything about it. The other gray guy says, I already made an effort, I already gave it the office. The pink guy says, well, there's social and personal reasons why I don't get involved in climate stuff. And the blue guy says, I don't know how to do it. And we have more information. We have quite a lot of handouts of different kinds, and I'd like to share them with the committee if I could. But we have more information on the dragons of inaction. So now we're into what? Climate action requires all hands on deck, and local governments are on the front line. And I found it interesting, the previous presentation where he talked about regional collaboration. I think that's a big piece of this. All local municipal governments, all local governments are on the front line. It's the point of access for people in the community, and it's the first place they turn to when basic stuff like the culvert is destroyed by a torrential storm, or the flood of the century again, that sort of thing. So this quote here comes from an independent scholarly report, and I do have a sheet of paper with the citations and references here. It comes from an independent scholarly report on rural municipal climate action in Ontario. and where it's at. And it says rural municipal governments have an important role to play in these efforts by harnessing local knowledge, engaging stakeholders, and leveraging a range of tools to pursue climate change mitigation and adaptation, which I'm about to start talking about, adaptation, such as land use regulation, flood management, infrastructure investments, and building inspection. So why adaptation? What is it? Why do we need it? What's meant by climate change resilience? Adaptation is about implementing measures to help us adjust to and cope with life in a changing and challenging climate. No matter what we do right now to get rid of, and I applaud what the committee has already started, what the council has already started in terms of addressing the mitigation of your operation, in your operations as a county, but no matter what we do about dealing with the actual emissions, we still have a huge problem for decades to come because we've set things are set in motion, and it's going to take a while for Mother Nature to address it. And so that's where we come into the question of resilience, which is what we get when we have forward-thinking adaptation measures. And good adaptation plans build local resilience to enable better recovery after extreme events caused by climate change. Experts have identified a serious adaptation gap, especially in rural climate plans. Here is the business case for why. This comes from a federal report, which is also mentioned here in our set of citations. It's called Canada in a Changing Climate Synthesizing Report, and it identifies the various things that the reasons why business has to get involved in climate action, because it makes financial and managerial sense for local governments to be proactive with adaptation strategies and build resilience for oncoming changes, and it also makes sense for local businesses to do that. And what you see in that little explosion thing there is a quote from the Insurance Board of Canada saying, revised risk modeling and escalating losses are making Canada a riskier place to insure. We know that. Here's some examples of nature-based climate action, which is a positive in all of this. And we do have the forests here, we have the wetlands, and we have the meadows, and they can all be part of climate change action in a much more passive, less expensive, and more effective way. Mitigation is essential, so thanks for taking that on. The county also has a mandate to take the lead on these crucial adaptation and resiliency concerns. So access to healthy nature, food and water security, economic security at local levels, of course. So food and water security is a number of different things you could do. Cooling shelters, another human health emergency response. Transportation other than the private vehicle. Ensuring youth can feel safe engaging in climate action. Land use protection and climate-wise management of development. Looking at all development through a climate lens, emergency response coordination, including communication to the public, and wildlife, in particular, at the last tier, but very important, wildfire prevention program, including strengthening fire ban measures. We have so much debris on the ground from the trees, and so many red pine forests that are basically fuel for fires. We did a survey. I think I'm going to be 1 or 2 minutes over, Mr. Chairman. I'm very close to the end. Is that okay? In November 2023, our chapter sent a questionnaire about environmental sustainability and climate action to all 19 local government councils. So that's the 17 that belong to the Renfrew County Council, and also Pembroke and Pikwakanagan. And 8 have already responded to our survey, and more were surveyed. We expect more. We know for sure that a few more are coming in already. The preliminary results are 68% agreement that continuous. I'm going to turn right around for this so I can read the thing. Am I going to fall off something? No. 68% agreement that continuous, valid, impartial information is needed about environmental stewardship and climate change solutions. 70% agreement that local municipalities don't have much capacity, either in human resources or time, to investigate grants or develop implementation plans that involve higher levels of government. 85% agreement that people need to take more personal ownership in practicing environmental stewardship, and that's where our idea for a community-based, county-wide climate action committee from Renfrew County Council would involve youth, and it would also involve people, and get action happening at the local level from the community up. 83% of the respondents so far have said they would welcome the establishment of an environmental stewardship climate action committee at the County of Renfrew level to assist their municipality. Just so you know, 6 of these were in writing, 2 were by telephone conversation, and all participants were assured of anonymity. This contradicts a little bit the previous guy. We're saying help is available. Renfrew County Council and the communities in our valley don't need to invent the path to comprehensive, practical climate action planning, policies and programs. We do need to get on with it. So this is from the federal report, the synthesizing report that I mentioned earlier that I have the URLs for. It talks about the assets, one of the assets in rural and remote communities being strong social capital and social networks and high rates of community participation. It doesn't talk about some of the things that your previous presenter talked about in terms of competition. So, and I don't think that's listed under the challenges, but it is an interesting report and a fascinating graphic. And let's see. That's it. We want climate leadership from local governments. Specifically, we are begging Renfrew County Council to consider and hopefully implement a climate action committee, not just a climate action plan for mitigation, but a broader climate action committee that has a wide mandate to talk with people in the community and also obviously involve all the municipalities and Pikwakanagan. Because we believe local governments can promote business and individual climate action. We know smaller communities need the help of county council. We all live in the smaller communities, and we're hearing from the smaller communities about that, the vast majority of them. A diverse county-wide committee is needed to make this work. Thanks, merci, miigwech. Oh, and our poster here, if you can't read it, it says, let's discuss the elephant in the room. No one is immune to climate change. And that was produced for us last year for Earth Day. We celebrate Earth Day each year by the National Organization of the Council of Canadians.
Thank you very much for that excellent presentation, and certainly agree that climate change is something that takes a collaborative approach, and the County of Renfrew has made it a strategic priority for County Council, certainly during this next 4 years. So I'll open it up for questions if anybody has any for the presenters. Warden, please.
Thank you very much. I unfortunately always have the unpleasant task of asking, is there any money just generally, is there money to establish such a committee? And then secondly, are you aware of any kind of an intern program that we might apply to get someone from a university or college program for a year? There is a municipal internship program through AMO, but it's usually towards public administration. So to put this in place, I think we'd need someone with an ecological background or an environmental sciences study. So is there any kind of an internship that we might consider as part of a plan going forward?
I'm really glad that, through you, Mr. Chairman, I'm really glad that 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 you asked that question, because I can see immediately that there's an opportunity for our climate action group to work with you to help you identify that. And we were surprised, a couple of us were sitting over a laptop at one point, I think it was Liz and I, because we've been doing climate cafes in the libraries. We've now done 3. We have one in Pembroke on the 2nd of March and one in Renfrew on the 9th of March. And that's just sit down and talk about climate with whoever shows up we're there for a couple hours. And so we're partnered on that, and Barb and Carol are partnered on reaching into the schools, and Judy's helping us with contact with some of the horticultural societies, and Kathy does other stuff. So we're all kind of got our prongs into different things. So we were actually trying to figure out, like, we're going to go and tell them that we want them to do all this, but or beg them to do it, but how are they going to pay for it? Surprisingly, there are 2 websites, which were in the slideshow, but I didn't mention them because I was trying to stay in time, about places you can go for money and places you can go for financial support and the kind of thing you're talking about. So that's something we'll definitely look into, and I don't know how we get back. Maybe somebody can tell us how we bring that information back to you. We present it back to you next month or something like that, I guess. So through you. Okay. So we'll get back to you through Jason about what we can find, and maybe, let's start a partnership on this.
Great. Thank you very much for the presentation and the information. And also the leadership and advocacy. That's a lonely role sometimes.
Thanks for appreciating that.
Say that again.
Thanks for appreciating that.
We all appreciate it. It's taken us a long time to get here. We were trying to figure out, how do we start talking about climate here? Well, I guess we'll just start talking. Anybody else have any comments? Okay, because I don't know what to do with this stuff. I really would like to share it with you in case some of you, this is our magazine from our national organization, and you get a better idea what we're about that way. And these are all different handouts. So
We'll pass it out later on.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to hear us. And I hope this is the beginning of a wonderful relationship.
Thanks again for that great presentation. So at this point, I will turn it back over to Director Davis for his department report.
Thank you again, Chair, and I'm very pleased to announce today that we have, late last night, completed the first draft of our, used to be called the Homelessness or the Hub Initiative. You'll recall during our budget deliberation and the initiative brought to this committee and to the team from CAO Kelly and Chief Nolan regarding the a hub initiative. We've really looked at this, the super slide on what it's going to take to move this file along, dealing with the mental health, the addictions, the homelessness, the housing issues that we're facing here in Renfrew County and beyond. And what we've done before and what we've said before, this is a true collaboration between 3 different departments. The history does say we're kind of siloed in a way where each department looked after ourselves in the sense of real property, would look after the housing, the bricks and mortar. The community services would look after some of the programs and the tenants, and the paramedic program would look after the people on the streets and the individuals in the public dealing with some homelessness and addiction issues. Through the leadership of CAO Kelly and Chief Nolan, this initiative is being really formalized in a document that you have in front of you. So I'll just hold it up as you can see, and hope you have a chance. Again, it's a challenge for us to put this in front of you in electronic format because we were working on this basically late during the week, and the weekend to get this in front of you today. This is a living document, it's a work in progress. We encourage for the fulsome review when you have a chance to look at this collaboration effort. And we truly believe this is a unique situation that the county is endeavoring to, it won't be a solution, but it'll help solve some of our issues we're facing in the public dealing with the, again, the mental health, the addictions, homelessness, and housing issues we're facing. So we prepared a little bit of a slide deck, and we'll ask Andrea Patrick or Ms. Patrick if she needs to jump in whenever she wants, and maybe near the end I'll ask her to jump in for adding some information. But again, very much a collaborative approach, which is different than most areas. I'm sure you've heard the City of Pembroke in their crisis situation where they've had over a dozen incidents in their downtown core. Just recently, the provincial government, the federal government announced some funding for a hub for them, a static hub. We see this as, we're the leader. We've talked about this before, but for Renfrew County, we're rural. And the ideas that we have here is the mobile team with the paramedic program, with the embedding of community service staff or crisis workers along with the paramedics to reach out to the community members that need the support. So again, this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to put words to an idea, words to a concept, and that's what you have in front of you. Again, by no means is this the final document. I've heard different times, again, repeating about a living document, and will change. Today is the first delivery of this document to a committee. You'll see this at the Renfrew County Housing Corporation and Community Services Committee and Health. And as we move forward, we'll build upon the presentation. I'll quickly go through at a very high level today. And then at County Council, a fulsome presentation of this, because you'll have a time to really review the document and to move forward and to see some of our action plans within the document. And so what I have here is just, again, it's a very much a collaborative approach between the three different departments, the community services, real property and development of property, and the paramedic programs as we move this program along. Our budget was increased a fair bit because of this, but we see the need. We see the community need, we see the public need for this. And we see the housing and the homelessness, or housing is the cornerstone of stability, both for an addiction issue and for some of our mental health of our people that we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And that's why we really focus in on, yes, the paramedic programs will be out the front line dealing with this, but we see as the corporation that housing, whether it's Renfrew County Housing Corporation assets, or partnerships with different organizations to increase our housing capacity in Renfrew County is one of the solutions to keep our society in check. I do like this kind of very much a Renfrew County image at the very bottom, where we have the continuum of housing supply. On the left-hand side, you see the homelessness and unhoused issue as an image, moving through the whole process of somebody owning their own home. This continuum of housing is a need for social health of our community. Again, working with the community services and Andrea's team for the programs and the tenant services is just as important as the bricks and mortar. So we always talk about a wraparound approach dealing with this. And that's what you have in front of you, a wraparound approach, three departments working together to have a continuum of support throughout the process. We all know that as this growing collective social crisis, we really need to look at what's causing addiction and the emergencies that it causes. And so this is another opportunity where we'll partner with different partnering organizations like the health unit and the hospitals and different health teams throughout Renfrew County. It's just not Renfrew County. We're dealing with the police services, et cetera, and the nonprofit housing organizations to help with this as a solution. The social determinants is very well documented. We know the more supports we give somebody, the better chance they'll come out of some of the issues they're facing on a day-to-day basis. I jumped one slide just to get to this slide. It's good to see a visualization where the level of government assistance, that middle image, when you have a low income, we see a greater dependence on government assistance. And as your income increases, the less dependence you have on the government. And we see that in the sense of more emergency response, the need for warming centers, shelters, transition spaces, housing, like our Renfrew County Housing Corporation assets we have for rent geared to income, looking for nonprofits. So as we move through the spectrum of income, the less reliance and less need they'll have for government assistance as they move forward through their life cycle. This one slide was brought to us, and I think the warden mentioned this during one of the presentations. I'm not sure if it was through our housing corporation or through the budget cycle. And very interesting for a fact about the costs per month if somebody's staying in the hospital compared to supportive programs. And so this is a very simple slide. There's a source from the University Health Network for a 1 month stay for a person in the hospital is $32,500 compared to a supportive housing program. Like Renfrew County Housing Corporation rent geared to income is $3,500 per month to support programs. So the more we get out in front of individuals before they get into the situation of being in the hospital, this is where we're trying to strive for cost effectiveness and cost savings in a way, but still relying on the supports of the paramedic programs and our housing initiatives to get in front, so we're not having these costs as a society for housing in the hospital or housing in a jail situation. So this is we're being forward thinking, and this is probably a very unique initiative for Renfrew County to move this file along. And I wouldn't mind if I could, Chair, to ask Ms. Patrick to talk about the Finnish model that it's been referred to within this document over and over, and it's something we can strive forward to. And they've really kind of nailed down how they're dealing with the homelessness, the addiction, the mental health of society. Yes, it's a different scale, but it's still a good initiative for the county to look after.
Thank you, Jason. And yes, Ms. Patrick, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Brose, and through you to committee. Good morning, everyone. And thank you, Mr. Davis, for, I think, everything that you've explained as far as the interdepartmental approach that we're trying to take. With this Finnish model, really just from a high-level perspective, this is about housing first. So the Finnish model, which they implemented in 1987 and have been working on since then, has seen a decrease in homelessness by over 80% in their area. So there is some proven data that it does work. And essentially what that model is doing is looking at getting people housed. So not putting resources and money into shelters, as that's still a transitional or temporary model, but really getting people into the type of housing that they need to suit their individual circumstances. So it's really looking at recognizing that housing is a basic need in order to address health challenges and mental health and other things to increase stability. You need to have a home that you can return to, that you can keep your belongings in, and that can give you that form of safety. So I think what we're looking at here in terms of this interdepartmental approach is spending less time on the emergency response piece and more time on prevention, early intervention, looking at how we can bring supports to the individuals, how we can help them get into the right type of housing for them, whether that be community housing, whether that be affordable housing, whether that be supportive housing, where there can be some supports and some services brought to them in order to help them be able to maintain that housing and maintain the health needs that they're having there. So I think, kind of looking at the Finnish model, but also looking at our communities and what really is going to work for the rural communities that we're in is looking at this as a mobile service, and looking at working with our community partners to really ensure that we have the experts at the table that are part of the collaboration and the innovation that we're looking to drive here to really do things differently, and to make sure that we are really able to move forward with addressing a number of the things that we need to really move towards increased community wellness and more options for the right kind of housing to support the individuals that we're working with. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Patrick. And I think before we move on to the other information items, I'm just going to stop and open it up for questions from committee at this point. Warden, please.
Yeah, I'm sorry. One of the things I don't think I noticed when I scanned through this very quickly is a linkage with the Canadian Armed Forces. I know that in some communities, and I'm not sure that's applicable to our community, but some of the homeless population is tied to recent discharges from the armed forces or veterans who have struggled and are roaming from community to community, usually retracing some of their steps either as children in the armed forces or serving members who have been discharged. But I don't see that as in a very quick scan, and I apologize for that, I didn't see that as a partnership or as a treatment modality or concern.
Thank you, Chair, and a very observant and very good point. And as we move this document along the program, I'd say, we're looking for comments like that where there could be a gap, and we'll address that in the version, I guess, 2 and maybe version 3 as we move forward. So we'll keep that in mind for the next steps. And maybe, Chair, before questions, I'm wondering if CAO Kelly has any comments with this document as we move forward, only if he wishes.
I always wish, Jason, you know that. Thank you, Chair. No, what I'd like to suggest, so a bit of a 5-second walk back in the past. This idea was born after a conversation, some ideas after AMO, I suppose, last year, where I, and along with some other members of council and staff, were at different sessions, hearing about what's going on in London, what's going on in Belleville and Grey County, Bruce County, other places. Thinking, well, we're unique. Renfrew County is very unique in how we deliver services. We're geographically challenged. We have 100,000 people spread over thousands and thousands of kilometers. And our resources are spread, not thin, but they're spread effectively across these areas. So the conversation leading from there was to my colleagues, the senior leadership team, on how we could bring this forward. And this is the culmination of a fantastic effort by all those involved to collaborate and deliver something that will be mobile, versatile, and accessible to all. And I'm very proud of that. The name, and Jason did gloss over that a little bit, is derived from, it's a riff, if you will, from the Sierra team. The Sierra team is our emergency services, paramedic service elite team that helps those in the that are lost in the woods, so to speak. And the word mesa is just another rock formation, but based on the fact of the mesa, if you can picture the desert or Boneco Rock, or there's other ones where they have really steep challenges to get to a really firm playing field or a really firm sustainable level. And we felt it was indicative of our new elite team of professionals that will support people on their challenges to get to a place of firmness or consistency in their life. And that's where we're bringing this to you. Again, this is a very quick walk from where we were last August in London, when we thought, how can we do a hub differently? And my colleagues in Belleville, of course, are experiencing their own challenges and how they're going to deliver a physical hub. But again, how we're situated, what we do here is innovative, unique, and I think that what you'll see as you work your way through this document is just that exact approach to how we're going to be delivering the service in years to come.
Thank you. And Warden, follow up.
Oh, yeah, I have to say, you know, we've talked repeatedly about not staying in our lane and needing to do something unique and blending it, everything. So as the CAO has said, it's great that everybody has got together to blend together a response for our community. And I have to tell you, I'm a big fan of the Finnish model. You know, when they talk about in 85, they had 20,000 homeless, and they're down to 3,600 at this point through a solid effort. And if you look at the front end of their document, I think there's 6 or 7 communities that they focused on. So there is some similarity to what we, what we're looking at. So, I'm glad we're reaching outside of our own borders, but also internationally to get information. So congratulations on that. And I recognize it's a fluid document, and I'm glad you're going to consider taking a look at other, the military, whether that's an issue, and then other areas as well. So thank you for this, and congratulations on the first of many drafts.
And I'll just echo that. Yeah, I think this is a fantastic approach to a very significant problem. I'm a little curious to hear a little more about the Finnish model. How did they work their approach? Is it through tiny homes? Is it through modular housing? What was their start?
Just a very quick 32 glib and facile explanation. It's a blended model of initial apartments or rooms, then it moves to larger homes, but it's a wraparound service. There's also a loan program for people that are starting out. They use what we have called a municipal services corporation, so they're able to borrow money against some of the properties. So they own a series of properties, but they also lease. So it's similar to our model in the sense that where we use private apartments and pay a subsidy to keep people in it. So there's that component as well. So that's a 45-second overview.
Thank you, and I assume there'll certainly be more information to come. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, then I'll turn it back to Director Davis for the remainder of his report.
Thank you again, Chair. So just as a reminder, so this is the first iteration to this committee. Again, this will be brought to Community Services and then Health, and then circling back to County Council for a more fulsome kind of presentation and discussion with all 3 team members presiding to move this forward. So if I could, Chair, on page 10 of your committee package, next item for information is the Cell Gap Project update. That's on page 15. As you can see, slowly progress is moving throughout Renfrew County and the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus area. Still moving forward. Just received an email from Miss Rose beside me here about one of our county forest cell towers, and that's going along slowly too. So they're still working through the process. So keep that in mind. Any questions that you have about this project, we can reach out to the EORN, Jason St. Pierre, to ask for more information. Item number 3, Chair, is the residential market activity for the month of January and some comparisons from year over year. That's found on page 16 of your committee package. Of interest, a little bit surprising to me, the number of sales is higher than last year. There's slight increases in the overall average of the house prices within Renfrew County, but I guess a good news story for people looking to buy or sell, sell their homes in Renfrew County. And Chair, I'll leave it at that before we go on to resolutions on page 11.
Thank you, Director Davis. So the information item number 2, the Cell Gap Project update. Comments or questions? Warden?
Very quickly, I should note that they feel they'll be on target. They've asked for a bit of an extension for a year. That came about because of the murkiness of the duty to consult, which the province of Ontario was a bit late in defining, and ERN had to work that out. So the good news is they've worked it out. They're, I believe, more than halfway through the list of First Nations communities and getting a good response. And the even better news is that they're starting to do that on our behalf for the 7 in 7 project as well. So the lessons learned, they're able to apply to that project. So they do have the extension for a year. Last week when we were at Queen's Park, we explained that to the Premier's office, just to remind them, and then also to Minister Thompson, and then one other minister, I can't remember who it was. So it's on target and on budget.
Thank you for that update. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, and we'll move to item 3, which is the residential market activity. Councillor from Arnprior.
Thank you, Chair. Just a thank you to Kevin for providing this information. It gives our growth package where we're going, where we've been, and very much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Seeing none, I'll go back to Director Davis for resolutions.
Thank you, Chair. And again, page 11, resolutions, the Algonquin Trail 2024 work plan. And I do have here the creator of these reports, Mr. Hanrath from the Operations Committee, if you have any, Operations Department, if you have any questions. But I'll read the recommendation, Chair. That the Development and Property Committee approves the 2024 work plan as presented for the Algonquin Trail.
Thank you, Jason. You've heard the recommendation. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor from Town of Petawawa, seconded by Councillor from Laurentian Valley. Comments, questions? Yes, Councillor from Petawawa.
Thank you, Chair. Through you. It's great to see we're putting more work into the trail. The question I have is the piece that goes through the garrison. Is this work plan going to complete that piece? And if the answer is yes, how far is that going to get us in terms of westward?
Mr. Hanrath, do you want to take that one?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Through you to the councillor from Petawawa. So the work plan that's presented here is specifically for maintenance of the trail that's been developed so far. The capital projects on things like the garrison section of the trail are a separate entity, but to answer your question on when it's planned, construction is going to commence in May on the 3 bridges that are in that section, and once those are complete, we'll be completing the connection from Garrison up to Chalk River.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. Mr. Davis, back to you.
Thank you, Chair. So item number 5, again, still on page 11, the K&P Recreational Trail 2024 work plan. I'll read the recommendation, Chair. That the Development and Property Committee approves the 2024 work plan as presented for the K&P Recreational Trail.
Thank you for that. Can I get a mover and a seconder for the recommendation? Moved by Councillor from Greater Madawaska, seconded by Councillor from Arnprior. Questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you, Chair. And just a quick reminder back to items 5 and 4. So these work plans are typically what you have in front of you in February or March to this committee. It's an annual thing for the operations, as Mr. Hanrath has mentioned, for the operationals for both the K&P and the Algonquin Trail. So you'll see this on an annual basis moving forward. Item number 6, expression of interest for housing alternatives. Again, I'll read the recommendation and I'll provide a background after the recommendation. That the Development and Property Committee recommends that County Council direct staff to create and issue an expression of interest, or EOI, to develop affordable housing on county-owned lands, and further that staff provide recommendations to Committee and Council at a future meeting.
Thank you for the recommendation. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor from Greater Madawaska, seconded by Councillor from McNabb Braeside. And please go ahead with the background.
Thank you, Chair. And this is one of these items where we're thinking outside the box, going outside our lanes, looking to develop some housing initiatives. We at staff, we don't know what the developers are interested in Renfrew County. This process in EOI will provide an opportunity for possible people to look at the County of Renfrew owned lands, and we'll have a website up and running to show and highlight these lands as we move this file and this our EOI along, to see what interest is out there. We just don't know. This is going to piggyback on a housing summit that we're organizing for April, where this is a keystone portion of the housing summit to have developers and ourselves looking at to increase the housing stock within Renfrew County and how we can assist, whether it's through lands, incentives, where and when we can that we're allowed to do. But this way we can get a flavor and a touch base of the developers and what they're looking for, and maybe bring partnerships to us as we move forward. We talk about Habitat for Humanity in a number of situations with us in Arnprior and Renfrew. We also have a bit of a closed meeting to talk about some other initiatives to kind of piggyback on this also. So I think it's a really good initiative for us to move forward, to see what's out there, to highlight some of the county-owned properties that could be used for development moving forward, and looking for partnerships as we move forward for, as again, the Mesa group and the Mesa team this is part and parcel of that program as we move the housing initiative along. And that's a bit of a background, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Questions or comments? I'll start with the councillor from town of Petawawa, and then McNabb Braeside.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, this is a very proactive and innovative idea, and I really like this. It'd be interesting to see what kind of feedback we get from all the other stakeholder groups. My question is, and it's not mentioned here, but maybe it's part of the larger plan. If a municipality had some land that they wanted to partner with the county or with any of these other stakeholders, would that option be on the table as well? I know it's early for a question like that. But.
Mr. Davis. Or Mr. Kelly.
Yeah, maybe Mr. Kelly. Yeah, we'll tag team.
Thank you. Through you. So we've talked about this internally. So where the challenge lies is we can't speak on behalf of your properties unless you delegate that authority to us, which we'd be happy to do, because we understand that many municipalities have some lands, and we're busy mapping them right now for the broader Warden's Caucus 7 and 7 plan that we're working with right now. For the expression of interest to work, as Mr. Davis has suggested, we'd have a map, and we'd put it out to the environment to tell us, well, I'd like to come into your property, I'd like to put 35 modular units on, or prefabricated units, and this is how I do it. I don't half of them, and you don't half of them, and you pay it off. You know, those type of things. It would be tough, again, for the county to speak on behalf of your lands unless you suggest you'd be fine with that management of that in terms of an overall process. I don't want to miss out on the chance of municipal lands, because sometimes the municipal lands are quite a bit better than maybe the county-owned lands, and the county doesn't own lands in every municipality either, or near serviced areas, if that was the case, if people want serviced areas. So I think that function, we can work on that somehow. I think there's a way through that. It's just a matter of finding that right path that we can speak on behalf of you or your municipality.
Councillor from McNabb Braeside.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair, and my colleague from Petawawa pretty much asked my question. I just want to say that a very strong word of support for this. I think this is a tremendous first step to get into that world where we have to find the connection between developers and land and affordable and attainable housing. And when it comes to developer-owned lands and affordable and attainable housing, that's a little more complicated. But I think this is a tremendous first step to begin that conversation of working with developers to meet that goal of affordable and attainable housing, starting just with Renfrew County lands, and then those of us at the municipal lower tier level will be certainly watching. And we thank the CAO for giving us an overview of some of the technicalities of municipalities getting involved here, but that can be worked out over time. But this is a tremendous first step to get the ball rolling towards that goal.
And the Warden.
Yes, thank you. Great initiative, glad to see it. Will we also be, in the expression of interest, highlighting a desire for new technology so that, and I'm thinking specifically of the Frontenac model that allows greater density on rural lands. So if there's a means of making sure that our rural communities get attention as well, then, you know, if there's, in the verbiage, stressing maybe two sections. One is the urban serviced area, the second one is the rural area, how they would address it. And then also the final point would be if they can indicate to us if they do 700 rent geared income units, will that generate 2,400 market units? Because I would hope they would do a little bit of work, and I'd like to see the result of that rather than just regurgitating what's in the public domain. I hope we can see someone that understands our market. So those are the kinds of things. If we can weave that into it, it would be great.
Mr. Davis?
Yeah, thank you, and very well spoken, Warden, because that is the expectation. We're looking for that initiative, whether it's for rent geared income or market rent, things like that, to go beyond. And then talking about the rural landscape, yes, we focused on the more of the urban serviced areas first, and you saw that or see that in the committee package, because that's the low-hanging fruit and something we can turn around quickly. But during our housing summit that we're proposing, we're going to be talking about the initiatives that we've had before at Frontenac County for communal services, and making sure that our developers of Renfrew County know and are aware of these programs that are out there that could maybe use some of these rural areas outside of the typical serviced areas of urban positions. Thank you.
And Councillor from town of Petawawa.
Thank you, Chair. And just to add to that, I can't speak for all the municipalities, but I know some of us have applied for a Housing Accelerator Fund initiatives, and we're patiently waiting to hear from the government should we be successful. But if some of us are, that funding might be eligible for one of these types of partnerships. And I know the county would be quite happy to have a partner who's bringing some funding to the table as well.
Warden.
Yeah, we brought up the Housing Accelerator Fund provincially because we see 128 million being offered up to Ottawa, 160 million being offered up to Windsor, and out west and out east, and it's all large centers. So we brought that up saying, look, is there going to be any money left? You know, by the time you hand out 124 million to 200 communities across Canada. So the province is aware of that. We're in the process of letting the federal government know that we're very curious about. Ours should be pretty easy to say yes to, you know, because for the most part, the smaller amounts that are requested are pretty specific. And, you know, we sort of have a plan to know what we're doing. So we're curious as to why there's not as many announcements. Because I can't say I've been watching it exclusively, but I can't tell you there's been any small rural municipalities that have gotten Housing Accelerator funding money. There are some small urban communities that have received them that seemingly are in writings that are attached to cabinet ministers, but I haven't seen anything else beyond that. So I hope they heard my voice on that. But so we are monitoring it and asking questions. And again, I have a call Friday morning with some people in the federal government on to talk about housing. So I'll mention it one more time.
Yes, Councillor from Petawawa.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to the warden. Are you aware of who in Renfrew County has made an application so that you could, on calls like this or emails, you could advocate on our behalf?
I have heard of 4. The town of Renfrew, yourselves, Whitewater, and I can't remember who the other one was. Pardon me? Okay, so that's 5 then. Okay. All right, I'd only heard 4, so that's good. What I'll do is send out an email and ask everybody to make sure I've got it accurately, but I will. Thank you.
Thanks for that.
Thank you. Any other? Yes, Councillor from Horton.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. I would just ask where the county planning department is as far as moving forward with land development and where we actually sit with the official plan challenge of the rules that are in front of us right now. Is there any negotiations going on that I don't know of that is changing that official plan?
Mr. Howard?
Thank you, through you, Chair. We have not had any update recently from the province at all with regards to any changes to the Planning Act or the provincial policy statement. There were, I'll say, rumors of a new provincial policy statement or revisions to it coming forward, but those have been, actually, there's been no new news for a while, so I don't have any update. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that's carried. And that brings us to our Economic Development Division report, and Ms. Marquardt.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to committee. Just before we start, I would like to wish everyone a happy Canadian Agriculture Day. And I'd like to give a shout out to our 1,000+ farms and agri-food businesses across Renfrew County who employ almost 5,000 people in that blossoming sector. Number one on the report is the Rural Economic Development Summit. We've received an invite from the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs for a virtual economic development summit they are hosting on February 29th. The purpose of the summit is to consult and inform the development of an economic development strategy for rural Ontario. The theme is exploring opportunities, working collaboratively to support rural Ontario's economic prosperity. We have been notified that this is limited capacity. We're not sure if an invitation has been sent out to all municipalities in Renfrew County, but we received one here, so I will be participating in that summit and bringing forward comments on behalf of Renfrew County. Number two of the report, and located on page 18, is the Taste of the Valley wrap-up report from 2013. So just to go through a couple of the highlights, in all we had over 10,000 visitors attend the event series in 2023, and you can see a breakdown of those individual attendance numbers at each event. But there was a total of 178 vendors supported through this event series, 84 of which were new last year, so that's great to see many new ones coming to the table. And a breakdown is included between the number of artisans and the number of food and beverage vendors. And as you will see, the number of artisan vendors is now exceeding the number of food and beverage vendors and producers. So we're hoping to be able to get back more of some of those food and vendor producers this year as we move forward. Just in terms of our marketing and advertising reach, you'll see our social media numbers there. So through our reach, which is our posts that are put out there, we reached over 147,000 people, and then that reached over almost 500,000 impressions across our social media platforms, including almost 12,000 interactions. So those are the saves and the likes and the comments and the shares, and over 5,000 click-throughs, and that would be click-throughs to the Taste of the Valley website and or individual operators tagged in our post that attend Taste of the Valley. And then you'll also include, we ran an economic impact report. So the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Sport offer a model called the Tourism Receipts Economic Impact Model, which allows us to generate an economic impact report for events. So you'll see through, for the entire Taste of the Valley series, it had an economic impact of over $750,000 to our local communities, and provides almost $400,000 direct impact to our gross domestic product. And then at the end of the report, you'll see just a bit of the feedback that we received. So we survey vendors after each event. So this is a combination of all the survey results for all of the events, but a 92% satisfaction rate, very good or excellent on the overall of the event. 86% indicated that their sales were satisfying or very satisfying at the events. Pretty much everybody likes the new timing of the event. They like that the event is consistent and held on Saturdays. And then there's also some quotes at the bottom just based on people's feedback from vendor experiences at the actual events. And there are quite a few nods to the organization of the event, so I just want to give kudos to our Business Development Officer, David Waibu, and Economic Development Coordinator, Scott Hamilton, for pulling together these events and working with our local communities to host them. Continuing on my report, number 3 is the Invest Renfrew County newsletter. So our first issue of 2024 was released in January, and so there's a link there to read more about all the great stuff that was included in that newsletter. And then item number 4 is a media release shared with us by the Pembroke and area airports from the Airport Management Council of Ontario that speaks to the importance of local airports and being identified as a piece of critical infrastructure for municipalities. And I will pause there, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Marquardt. So we'll move back to information item number 1, the Rural Economic Development Summit. Comments or questions? Hopefully this will be an opportunity and just speak to my colleague from Horton who, emphasized the importance of the agriculture community and the benefit that it brings to Renfrew County, that maybe this is an opportunity to really highlight that during that meeting with Lisa Thompson. Any other comments, questions? Item number 2 is the Taste of the Valley report for 2023. The warden.
Yeah, very impressive that the events totaled, nearly 10,000 people. It's quite an achievement and steady growth, I think, from this initiative that started 10 years ago. So yeah, congratulations.
And Councillor from Greater Madawaska.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I just want to say congratulations on this. We had it for the first time in Calabogie this year. It was a huge success. Everybody that I spoke to had a great day, and you will be seeing us making an application for that again. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, then item number 3 is the Invest Renfrew County newsletter. And item number 4 is the Airport Management Council of Ontario press release. And I'll turn it back to Ms. Marquardt for resolutions.
Thank you, Chair. So I'll read the recommendation, which is for the 2024-2026 Economic Development Strategic Plan, that the Development and Property Committee recommends that County Council adopt the 2024-2026 Economic Development Strategic Plan as presented.
Thank you for the recommendation. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor from Arnprior, seconded by Councillor from Laurentian Valley. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor? And that's carried. And back to you, Ms. Marquardt, for the Ottawa Valley Tourist Association report.
Thank you. Number 1 on the report is the Ottawa Valley Tourism Conference and Annual General Meeting. If everyone wants to save the date of Tuesday, April 16th, that will be the date, which also coincides with National Tourism Week. And the full day event details, including registration and location, will be announced in the next couple of weeks. Just as a reminder, this event is a full day event. It includes conducting the general business as part of our annual general meeting, so electing a board of directors, approving financial statements, updating bylaws, that form of thing. As well, it includes the presentation of the Ottawa Valley Tourism Awards, which is always a fun celebration of our tourism operators throughout the region. Number 2 on the report is just to let you know that the 2024 Ottawa Valley road maps are now out. There is a copy at all of your desks, and they were distributed to all households in Renfrew County, City of Pembroke, and South Algonquin Township at the end of January via Canada Post. There's also distribution that happens across the provincial visitor information centers, our local visitor information centers, as well as through member businesses and organizations. This also coincided with the reprinting of our cycling map, and so those new maps are also available for distribution and will be distributed over the next couple of years through niche cycling events, as well as through cycle-friendly operators and our partners at the Ontario by Bike organization. Number 3 is free membership with the Tourism Industry Association of Ontario, also known as TIO. So that is our provincial advocacy and lobbying organization on behalf of the tourism industry. And as a result of the OVTA being a member of TIO, that enables any member of the OVTA or tourism operator who is a member of the OVTA to enact free membership with TIO. Number 4 is just a little piece of good news that Canada has been ranked as the safest country in the world for travelers in 2024. This is no surprise. We're a very safe country, and one could argue the Renfrew County is one of the safest places in Canada to travel to also. Number 5 is the Ontario Tourism Health Check report as of November 30th. So as previous reports include, this is just an update on how the industry is recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic. As well, it highlights, that key international markets are returning, short-term as well as hotel occupancy rates and that form of information. Number 6, so it's winter carnival season, even though it's not really winter time right now, and there's a lot of lack of winter weather to be able to do winter activities, but a lot of our winter carnivals are still going ahead and have been taking place, and includes a lot of really unique and ways to explore and get out and visit some of our communities. But they are not quite over yet, and I know that there's a little bit of snow coming this weekend, so hopefully that will help return things to winter here like it should be, and maybe that we'll see some more snowmobilers, people getting out on some snowshoes and some skating and that form of thing. And then lastly on the report is just an update that the 2024 Ottawa Valley Tourist Association draft budget was presented to Pembroke City Council last week for approval, which is the second form of approval for our three-way budget approval process. We will be finding out next week whether that is approved as part of the city's full budget approval process on February 20th. And that concludes my OVTA report.
Thank you, Ms. Marquardt. So we'll go back to information item number 1, the Ottawa Valley Tourism Conference and Annual General Meeting. Item 2 is the 2024 Ottawa Valley Roadmap and Cycling Maps. The Warden.
We should add that Parliamentary Assistant Jones was extremely impressed with the map when we met with her at Roma to talk about the OTO financing model. She just couldn't get enough of it, so we should send her maps on a regular basis.
Well, apparently she's planning to come at least in Greater Madawaska to try out Councillor's food truck down there, so.
Yeah, there was a bit of self-promotion there. Usually that's my province, so I was a little embarrassed, but I was out self-promoted. But anyway, thank you.
Sorry, Mr. Kelly.
I don't often correct the warden, but it's Parliamentary Assistant Laura Smith. There we go.
Thank you for that clarification. Item number 3 is the free membership with the Tourism Industry Association of Ontario. Item number 4 is the Canada ranked safest country in the world for travelers in 2024. Good news item. Item number 5 is the Ontario Tourism Health Check. Item number 6 is the winter carnival season. Councillor from Greater Madawaska.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Chair. Thank you for bringing this up. In Calabogie, we just had a six-day winter carnival that was extremely well attended. Unfortunately, on our last day, we were supposed to have a kids hockey tournament and then an adults hockey tournament. So that got shifted to a snowball tournament, and we painted lines on the baseball diamond, and then everybody donned their winter clothes, and we had a great baseball game. So we just improvised and overcame, but it was a great day, and I thank you for bringing this up.
And I just want, oh, sorry, Councillor from McNabb.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, so we also had a wonderful shanty breakfast and carnival at Braeside. On the list of upcoming events would be our White Lake Winter Carnival this weekend. We'll be scrambling to try to get the ice back after the mild weather, but we're hopeful that we're going to be able to do some events on the rink, but there'll be many other events, including the polar plunge, and you're all invited to take part in that.
Thank you for that. And I also wanted to highlight that this weekend is also the Great Canadian Kilt Skate in Rankin. And I understand that Director Davis has a kilt, so hopefully he will show up, and we'll look forward to seeing him in his kilt.
You're the only person, Chair.
Item number 7 is the Ottawa Valley Tourist Association draft budget. And seeing no other questions, then I will go back to Ms. Markwood for the Enterprise Renfrew County report.
Thank you, Chair. First item on the report is the development of a sponsorship package for Enterprise Renfrew County. So this goes back to actually one of our priority action items in our new strategic plan, which is to explore more sustainable funding model for Enterprise Renfrew County, and this is just one of those steps in order to do that. So ERC has developed a sponsorship package, and this is to help generate a little bit more revenue in terms of delivering our workshops and events for continuing to support our business community. So this is open to municipal partners as well as non-traditional businesses. So we're reaching out after, financial institutions, insurance companies, things like that, who've been supporting and working with Enterprise Renfrew County over the past number of years. Number 2 is intake is now open for Summer Company and Starter Company Plus programs for this year. So just as a reminder, the Summer Company program is open to students aged 15 to 29 who do plan to return to school in the fall. And that program provides training and financial support of up to $3,000 for students to run their business over the course of the summer. And the deadline to apply for that intake is May 15th, and there are only a total of 5 spots available, so that will be typically a competitive process. And for the Starter Company Plus program, which is a program for adults, which provides a fast-track training program for cash flow development, business plan development, insurance risk, all that type of stuff for getting your business up and running. And then at the end of that process, there's a competition to apply for up to a $4,000 grant. So there are information sessions scheduled on April 2nd and April 4th, and participants must attend one of those information sessions in order to receive an application form to apply for the Summer Company program, or Starter Company Plus program. And there's information on the website on how to register and sign up for both of those programs. Number 3 is just an update on workshops and events. So in partnership with the Renfrew County Community Futures Development Corporation, ERC is assisting with the Francophone Networking Breakfast being held on March 8th at le Centre Culturel Francophone de Pembroke. And so if you recall, Enterprise Renfrew County was the lead on this event last year as a result of some additional funding received from the province. This year that funding was not available, so there was a bit of a role reversal with CFDC taking the lead in terms of running that event and ERC being a supporting partner. And Enterprise Renfrew County is sponsoring out of that the Francophone Entrepreneurship Award. And so that highlights Francophone individuals or businesses who are doing really great things in the county, and applications for that award are open until February 19th. So if you know of some great Francophone operators or businesses or individuals in your municipality, please consider submitting an application. And that completes the report.
Thank you, Ms. Margaret. We'll move back to information item number 1, which is the sponsorship package. Comments, questions? Item number 2 is the Summer Company 2024 and Starter Company Plus. And item number 3 is the workshops and events. And seeing no questions, then we'll move to the forestry report, and I will turn it over to Ms. Rose, please.
Thank you, Chair. On page 46 of your package, you'll find the forestry report. Some information items for you. Number 1 is an operations update. It's been a really busy winter so far. We're currently harvesting and hauling out of 3 of 5 of our operations for this year. The mild winter that we're experiencing is definitely going to be a challenge for some areas. This could go either way. Some areas it needs to be frozen conditions for us to implement activities there. Some, the lack of snow is helpful because it's upland and we don't see people having to spend as much money on plowing and maintaining access into these areas. However, 2 of the tracks also have timing restrictions in place for species at risk, so it's just, stacking these challenges every year. We might see that not all work will get completed in 1 year, given the unpredictable conditions that we are starting to see more and more of. That said, the one that we expect some challenges with is a 2-year contract. So although we might see lower revenues this year, we will incur those in future, hopefully. Number 2 is just an update for you on the Eastern Wolf federal uplisting update. We talked about this last month and just included as Appendix 4.1 is the comments that were submitted on behalf of the County of Renfrew. Information item number 3 is an update on the protection of black ash and its habitat under the Endangered Species Act of Ontario. So we've been talking about this for almost 3 years now. Finally, a decision has been reached and posted by the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks, or MECP. So now, as of January 26th, black ash and its habitat are protected in the mapped geographic area, which includes the town of Arnprior, townships of Amneston and Bromley, Greater Madawaska, Horton, and McNabb-Braeside. So that means that all ash that are deemed to be healthy over 8 centimeters at 1.37 diameter, that's what we call diameter breast height in forestry terms, DBH, those are required to be assessed, and if they are healthy, they cannot be removed and are protected by a 30-meter reserve. So you can imagine the implications that that will have to public works and planning and development and things like that. So just providing that as information, that a decision's been made, and that the posting did say that no decision has been made on. There was a proposal in the last posting, which we commented on. That's included as an appendix also. There was a proposal for a conditional exemption for forestry operations on private and municipal lands with a number of conditions obviously associated with that. So they have not reached that decision. So in terms of forestry for us on the County of Renfrew forest and on private land, we're still in a bit of limbo in that regard. However, forest operations on Crown land came out well in this, in that there are not expected to be any implications for forests that are managed under the Crown Forest Sustainability Act. So, as you know, we've submitted a number of comments on this over the years. I will say that compared to other species at risk, this decision is more flexible than anything that we've ever seen. However, I do expect that it will be difficult to implement. If process is followed, there will be a number of exemptions and permits required to continue regular business in a lot of our county and in future as that area expands, the whole county. Item number 4 is just some information about outreach. So the Shawwoods Outdoor Education Center had its monthly board meeting. The chair and I attended that. Some more good news out of Shaw Woods. There's been a new private donor, which will result in additional bus subsidy funding, hopefully enabling more school groups to get out there with the high cost of busing these days. Lots of use, again, by the public over the holiday season. And the Shaw Woods teachers visited Miramichi Lodge for an outreach program, Bring the Forest to Them. And, we've also been talking about some signage and boot brushes to educate and reduce the risk of introducing invasive plant species on their trail systems. And just another information item about a webinar that was delivered to my alumni association at the University of New Brunswick about forestry in Ontario, here at the county, and career opportunities in Ontario for those graduates, which there is definitely a shortfall of foresters available for hire in Ontario. So hopefully planting the seed for some of them to make their way up here when they graduate. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rose. So going back to information item number 1, the operations update. Questions, comments? Item number 2 is the Eastern Wolf Federal Uplisting update. Item number 3 is the update on the protection of black ash and its habitat in regards to the Endangered Species Act 2007. And finally, item number 4, the outreach in regards to the Shaw Woods Outdoor Education Center. Seeing no questions, then we will move to the Real Estate Division report. And Mr. Raditz, please.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to the committee. The real estate report can be found on page 52. And in information, item number 1 is the attached appendix of the projects that we plan to start in 2024, and as you can see, there's a total of 13 projects, 3 of which is a carryover from 2023, and for a total of $1.7 million in projects this year. And of course, the Eganville Paramedic Base is kind of the priority project, which we are targeting to have completed for June. And as well, in the upcoming weeks, there will be some additional tenders that's in a draft. It's in a draft stage, and these tenders will be put out for tender in the upcoming weeks. And Chair, I'll just stop there.
Thank you, Mr. Raditz. Any comments or questions on the real estate capital and under capital threshold projects? I see none, so I'll go back to you, Mr. Raditz, for bylaws.
And Chair, I'll just read the recommendation for the bylaw. The lease agreement 450 O'Brien Street, Renfrew. Recommendation that the Development Property Committee recommends that the County Council adopt a bylaw to enter into a lease agreement for a 2-year period commencing March 1st to 2024 with the Paradise Children's Program Incorporated for space at Renfrew County Place, 450 O'Brien Street, Renfrew, Ontario.
Thank you, Mr. Raditz. You've heard the recommendation. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor from Horton, seconded by Councillor from Town of Arnprior. And please go forward with the background, Mr. Raditz.
Thank you, Chair. So the background pertaining to this lease, Children's Paradise, they've been a tenant at RCP for 15 years. I believe they signed their first lease in 2019. So, of course, they expressed interest in continuing to be tenants at RCP, and with the current lease expired, they were interested in entering into a new lease for the space at 450 O'Brien, combining a total of, as you can see, 4,500 square feet. And that lease will, in its current lease, it's a short-term lease that'll commence March 1st, 2024 and expiring February 28th, 2026 with an option to extend. And there is attached in the report, there's attached appendix outlining the lease agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Raditz. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor? And that's carried. And then we'll move to the Planning Service Division report, and Mr. Howarth, please.
Thank you, Chair. The Planning Division report can be found on page 75 of the committee package. A number of information items. Number one is an update on subdivision activity. So in this past month, we did give draft approval to the Morrison Townhouse development. That's in the town of Deep River. That's to create 12 townhouse units. And we received our first subdivision already for 2024. It's being called River Lane Estates, and that's located in the township of Greater Madawaska. So staff are in the process of circulating that application in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act and working with the developer and the public agencies, including the townships that are involved. This is right on the border between the township of Greater Madawaska and the McNabb Braeside. It's on the south side of the Madawaska River. And attached as Appendix Plan 1 is a detailed sort of initial staff memorandum just overviewing the application and the supporting information that we received for that. And there's a QR code there that contains a link to the Zen City Engage information that has been posted on the website. And it was brought to my attention by Mayor Weir that the link that you can see in Zen that says Zen City is actually it's a link to a different project, so we'll get that corrected. But that information is posted onto this Zen City platform. Item number 2 is an information item with regards to the Township of Laurentian Valley. They've taken the lead and have arranged and invited municipalities within Renfrew County to discuss short-term rental accommodation. So there's been a few municipalities within the county that have been looking at this issue, being Laurentian Valley, Greater Madawaska, and I believe Whitewater region as well. And so they decided to sort of broaden their discussion and are hoping to arrange a meeting with all the municipalities within Renfrew County, and they've invited staff to participate in this meeting. And just due to the size of it, they've asked that the county sort of play host for the venue. But this is a meeting and initiative being led by Laurentian Valley. And item 3 on the information is that we are at the end of the beginning for the flood hazard information mapping program. So hopefully by March 1st, that's sort of the deadline or the end of the first phase for this project. We are anticipating that the consultant is going to be wrapping up the final reports, and we're going to be submitting this off to both the Ministry of Natural Resources and Natural Resources Canada, that are partners on this project, to finalize that last report that is identifying priority areas to look at for future floodplain mapping and the work and necessary budgeting for future phases of the project. So it's really looking at areas that we need to focus in and update our floodplain mapping. And with that, Chair, I will pause. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Howarth. So we'll go back to information item number 1, the subdivision activity update. Comments, questions? Item number 2 is the short-term rental accommodation. Councillor from Greater Madawaska.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, just to update on last night, we had a public meeting on short-term rental accommodations in Griffith. It was a very passionate meeting, and tonight we have a second public meeting at 6 p.m. in Calabogie. So if anybody would like to attend and get an idea of the type of questions and concerns the public have over this, you're more than welcome. Thank you.
Maybe Mr. Davis could go, or Ms. Marquardt, and talk about the MAT.
Through you, Chair. Thank you. We're not approaching any idea about that right now, but thank you for your concern.
I'm sure Mr. Murphy would enjoy that topic coming up again. Any other, I think this is a great idea. I look forward to being part of that meeting, and I want to thank Laurentian Valley for taking the lead on that. Item number 3 is the flood hazard information mapping program. Comments or questions? I see none, so we'll go back to bylaws. Mr. Howarth, please.
Thank you, Chair. So this is with regards to official plan amendment number 43, and I'll just read the recommendation. And I do note that I did have a typo in there. So the recommendation is that the Development and Property Committee recommends that County Council adopt a bylaw to approve official plan amendment number 43 to change the designation of the lands from agriculture to rural.
Thank you, Mr. Howarth. You've heard the recommendation. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor from McNabb-Braeside, seconded by Councillor from Greater Madawaska. And please go forward with the background.
Thank you, Chair. So attached as an appendix is a detailed staff report and a copy of the official plan amendment and bylaw that is being proposed. Planning staff have reviewed this application and we support the approval of the requested official plan amendment. This property does have a very long history of previous planning approvals and review, and the lands were previously designated for rural and residential uses. However, when we updated the official plan a few years back, when the province modified the document, we think there was probably a mistake, or they were unaware of the history of the property, and the province changed the designation of the property from rural back to agriculture. And so this proposal is just to re-designate the property back to rural as it had been. So we view this as a technical amendment. I did want to point out that we have received a significant amount of public feedback through written submissions and through the attendance at the public meeting. The correspondence did include a petition of about 85 signatures, was identifying some concerns, and in addition, we did have a letter of, we'll say, an opposition from the Arm Prairie Regional Federation of Agriculture and also from the Renfrew County Federation of Agriculture. And the attachments, there is a complete list of that submission, and the details with regards to the concerns have been detailed in the staff report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Howarth. I'll turn it to committee for questions or comments. The warden.
Thank you. And it might just be the drawing, but the drawing on page 76, that narrow ribbon. I'm guessing that's the road access, and I'm curious, is that going to be on a separate piece of property, or does it run down the property or the concession line or whatever it's called between Mississippi Mills and Renfrew County? It's just a curiosity thing.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. It is a strip on the private property, so there is an adjacent road allowance there, but I think for ease of working with partner municipalities, that piece of property has already been severed. So that shape that you see in that image is a separate piece of property that exists, and so that property does have direct frontage on Young Road, and the proposal would be to eventually build a new road along that strip on the existing private property, not on the township road allowance.
Good, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? And that's carried. And then I will need a mover and a seconder for the report as a whole. Moved by Councillor from Petawawa, seconded by Councillor from Laurentian Valley. Any comments or questions on the report as a whole? Seeing none, all in favor? And that's carried. I think at this time we'll take a 10-minute break, and we'll come back at 11:42. Thank you and welcome back, everybody. At this point, we are at new business. Are there any new business items? I see none. So we are now going to move into closed, and it's for a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality regarding Boncher Manor and Renfrew County Place, and secondly, to discuss advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, and it's in regards to the lease agreement. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor from Greater Madawaska, seconded by Councillor from Laurentian Valley. All in favor? Thank you. We are now in closed. Well, welcome back, everybody. We are out of closed, and I'm going to turn it over to Director Davis to read the recommendation.
Thank you again, Chair. So 12:02 on our clock, so hopefully we'll get done before 12:10. The recommendation, Chair, is that the Development and Property Committee recommend that County Council direct the Warden and Chief Administrative Officer Clerk to execute a memorandum of understanding with the Town of Renfrew regarding the potential development at Renfrew County Place and Bonnechere Manor, both in the Town of Renfrew, Ontario.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. You've heard the recommendation. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor from Horton, seconded by Councillor from Greater Madawaska. Comments, questions? All in favor? And that's carried. The date of the next meeting will be Tuesday, March the 5th, 2024. And at this point, I'll need a mover and a seconder to adjourn. Moved by Councillor from Town of Arnprior, seconded by Councillor from Petawawa. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you all very much. We are adjourned.